Meanwhile, maybe you saw it, something floating around on social media, a couple of things, actually, that you saw floating around on social media, perhaps. One of them is the notion that we have less time than ever to escape a burning house. And back to talk about fire safety in that regard and others is Michael McLeieer from E.S.C.A.P.E, the fire safety organization in Southwest Michigan. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, Richard.
So Jake, the fire safety dog, has a birthday today. Do you make him work, or does he get the day off?
He gets the day off, and then he's got to work again tomorrow.
Okay.
So, yep.
All right. He's just laying around right now, huh?
He's just laying around. Actually started barking. Somebody came in the office. He started barking just momentarily before we went on air. So, yeah, he's all active. He's all excited. Somebody gave him a birthday present already.
I've never heard him bark. He is so docile around humans. He just comes in and takes it easy. He really wants to work with kids.
He does. He does. He shows the children and families what to do if there's a fire. He demonstrates how to crawl low underneath the smoke, the importance of get out and stay out and things like that. So,
and if somebody, I was just going to say, if somebody has a school group or a kids organization, maybe a scouting group or something that wants to see Jake, you take them to them, don't you?
Absolutely. He just helps reinforce the traditional message that we teach in really a non-traditional way. And kids connect with pets and families connect with pets, so it's a great way for us to get the fire safety message out there and continue this discussion about fire safety all throughout the year, which really is a great segue into some of the things that you've been talking about here as far as how our homes today were at greater risk of dying in a home fire than ever before.
Why?
What we're finding, Richard, is a lot of our newer homes are more well insulated, better insulated. We've spent a lot of time airtight windows and insulation, but we also have loaded up the homes with a lot of flammable furnishings. With some of our modern furnishings now, we don't have the traditional wooden coffee tables. We don't have the normal fibers. We have more synthetic fibers and more plastics and things that can burn. When they catch fire, when they burn much hotter, they burn much more rapidly. In the day of our parents and our grandparents, the legacy furniture, as we talk about, it would take upwards of 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes before it would go into flashover state. Flashover is where everything in the room catches fire at the same time. So if for some reason there would be a candle that would be knocked over on a couch or something like that, the couch would smolder much longer. Today, if a couch were to come in contact with open flame, a lighter, carelessly discarded cigarette, that could go into open flame and the room could flash over in less than 3 minutes.
Oh, my. All right.
So it's important that we have working smoke alarms. It's important we have escape plans. As I've been following the news feeds on the great snowstorm out east, really important that when we do have those large snowfalls, we make sure that we shovel out all the exits from our home. Because if a fire is going to occur, if the unthinkable occurs, we need to have quick access out of every way out of our home, at least have two ways out. We don't often think about that. A lot of times some of our non-used doorways get blocked by ice or even snow, and if we had to get outside, we wouldn't have that opportunity because if those doors open outward especially, they're not going to open up if they're blocked with ice and snow.
Might as well have a truck parked in front of it or something.
That's right. That's right. So making sure that we understand the furnishings in today's homes, a lot more flammable. There's been a lot of studies that have been done on this with Underwriters Laboratories. We're now actually training the fire service all throughout the country on these new ways to fight fires and the more rapid ways that by the time a homeowner calls 911 and we arrive on location, anywhere from 4 to 6 minutes after that 911 call, many times the home is already fully involved because when we get the call, it's after the smoke alarm sounds or after the homeowner notices that the fire is already broken out.
You know, at this modern time, I think it's often perceived that we're busy making modern advances in a lot of things. I just presumed that the new furniture we buy these days was less conductive, if you will, of flame. That isn't the case.
It isn't. And actually, the furniture industry has worked really well in supporting the studies that have been done and really support a national standard, which we haven't gotten to that point yet as far as having a national flammability standard. If you remember years ago when flammability standards with children's sleepwear was introduced, that was a huge improvement because children that were wearing sleepwear that may not have a flame retardant chemical, if they got close to open flame, their sleepwear would catch fire. And that was a huge problem in the 50s and even into the 60s. Once the standards came out, once they were released, we started seeing those types of injuries and those types of deaths actually going down. So it's like anything. We ebb and flow. We have to take responsibility for what's in our homes, and we have a lot more stuff, and homes today have much more open space. We as homeowners want to have these cathedral ceilings, these large grand foyers, these large entryways. Well, we don't have homes in many cases that are compartmentalized. And by that I mean making sure that homes have doors that can close. We have these wide open spaces. Should fire occur, it spreads much more rapidly. So add the furnishings, add the open space, fire spreads much more rapidly, and it can be deadly. And last year we saw 103 fire fatalities statewide, Richard. We haven't surpassed the triple-digit or reached the triple-digit fire fatalities in decades. So it's a huge problem, and West Michigan was leading the state in home fire deaths.
Well, and you've been talking about that the statistics have been quite high, higher than usual. Is there pressure from organizations like yours and maybe national fire safety organizations on the companies that make home furnishings to try and figure out ways to suppress fire in their products?
There is, and it's an ongoing conversation, and it's an ongoing collaboration with the United States Fire Administration, with Underwriters Laboratories, with a lot of the testing organizations that are out there. So this is an ongoing dialogue, really looking at what's in everybody's best interest. What we don't want to do is rush into something, come out with something, and have worse of a problem that people can't meet or manufacturers are unable to meet. So it is something that we continue to work on together. But what we can do now is we can continue to educate, empower, and inform the public, making sure that they are prepared, making sure that homes have smoke alarms. In the tease setting up this segment, you talked about every time we do this interview, and you and I, and we talk about fire safety,
Yep.
A time does not go by that someone doesn't reach out to me soon after that interview and says that they don't have a smoke alarm and would they be able to receive one. So we'll have information on that later in this interview so that everybody will know how they can connect either with their local fire department or E.S.C.A.P.E so that we can make sure that everybody stays safe. Families don't think fire is going to happen to them. That's the problem, and we need to change the mindset.
Yeah, and the statistics bear it out that it does happen. Obviously, as you say, the triple-digit numbers this year are tremendously awakening, eye-opening.
They are. They certainly are.
Are other states in the same boat as we? What gives here?
Well, last winter was unique because it was extremely cold. So we have states around us and near us like New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, even as far west as California, which were leading the country in home fire deaths. So we weren't the deadliest state, but we were in the top 5 or 6 states having the most number of fire fatalities. When it's cold, last 2 winters, when it's cold, people tend to use space heaters and an alternative heating. And when we talk about space heaters, we need to think about giving them space. We need to make sure we don't use space heaters with extension cords, and we need to make sure they're at least 3 feet away from anything that can catch fire. Electrical was another leading cause. So if we overload an electrical outlet, let's say we have an older home that has older electrical service, a high wattage appliance like a space heater can actually overload that electrical circuit. And think of all the things we have today that we didn't have 30 years ago in our homes. Right. Computers, high-definition television monitors, all the electronics that we have today that we didn't used to have.
Michael McLeieer is here from E.S.C.A.P.E. When we come back in a minute, we'll talk a little bit about something else that was floating around on social media, an image, and it grabs your attention when you see it, an image of a high-efficiency light bulb, the squiggly kind, that's burned and it grabs your attention. And the story with it said, this is a problem. These sometimes catch fire. We'll talk about whether or not that's an accurate depiction when we come back in a minute. With us this half hour, Michael McLeieer with E.S.C.A.P.E, the fire safety organization. So everybody is switching to those squiggly bulbs, and we'll talk about that in a second. First, though, we're talking about space heaters. How do you know you're overloading that outlet, Michael?
We want to make sure the space heater, Richard, is actually plugged directly into the outlet. Don't use extension cords, making sure that we're using an outlet that's not shared with other high wattage appliances. A lot of times you can have an electrician come in, and if you're tripping the breaker, that's probably a good indicator that that space heater is drawing too much electricity. That outlet or that circuit's not designed for that high wattage draw. But one of the things I want to bring to everybody's attention, we have those new infrared heaters that have been out for the last few years, and heaters that have timers. That's giving the public a very large misconception that they can go to work or they can go to bed and leave those heaters on. Space heaters need to be turned off when we leave the room or when we leave our home or when we go to bed. We never, ever should leave them on. And that's what we're finding some of these malfunctions or some of these overload draws is when those heaters are left unattended. The other thing is children and pets never should be left around space heaters or portable heaters without trusted adult supervision, because if they are knocked over, the older style ones do not have the auto shutoff techniques and devices that will turn them off. If they come in contact with something that can catch fire, they can cause a fire. What
does infrared mean? What the heck is that anyway?
There are special bulbs that are actually in the heaters that actually heat the items in a room, not the air. So it makes you feel warmer. A lot of the car dealerships have now gone with them. When you go into the service garages, it allows that bay to warm up without actually heating items. It heats it, or heating the air, rather. It heats the items. So it's just a new technology. It's been around for quite some time, but now it's more cost-effective for consumers. But we need to make sure, even though that they have these timers, we need to still use care and safety around the portable heaters.
All right. Now, the squiggly light bulbs. There was that image that said, these catch fire when they burn out. Is that true?
Well, when you brought this to my attention, I did a lot of research on this. So what I can tell you is that there was a brand from China that did not meet the National Testing Laboratory seal of approval, and they were having a problem with those smoking and those actually causing fire conditions. Most of the compact fluorescent lights that are on the market, though, do meet either UL, Underwriters Laboratory, FM Global, or another national testing laboratory. So when consumers are buying those type of bulbs or the new LED bulbs, make sure they hold that national recognized seal of approval. That's going to be the best bet because they meet those strict, rigid tests and standards here in this country. What I found has happened is the type of plastic that they used in the early style bulbs, when the bulb would actually burn out, that plastic would somewhat melt and it would give a little bit of smoke or a little bit of a burnt odor that consumers and homeowners would recognize. The other thing is we need to make sure people follow the manufacturer's recommendations. A lot of the early style CFL bulbs, compact fluorescent bulbs, are not to be placed in fixtures with dimmers, and that can be another problem which can cause a fire. So if we're following the manufacturer's labeled recommendations, they pretty much are free of any type of problem.
Now, knowing that they're following that recommendation is easy, right? That UL thing is what we look for on the bulb.
That's right. That's exactly right. The standards were updated in 2009 because of those cases of the plastic housing in the base. So now there's a different style plastic that doesn't tend to melt. When the bulb burns out, it will turn the bulb kind of a dark color when it meets the plastic, and that's a normal reaction. But what happens is sometimes that transformer in those early generation CFL bulbs will actually short out, and these last for many, many years. So people may have put these in, quite a few years ago, and when they burn out, when they reach their life expectancy, that's when we see the problem. So the ones on the market today should be pretty safe.
Okay. It's been interesting, too, though, because the power companies, Consumers Energy and others, have started to subsidize some of that, so folks will transition to them. I think a lot of us thought, I'll wait till the old ones burn out and then I'll change them. They've been making it really cost-effective for us to think about doing that sooner, which is kind of
Absolutely.
interesting. All right, so I'm always glad to hear when you tell me that people have called you after we talk to say, I need a smoke detector and I don't have the money to get it. How can I get it for nothing? There are ways to do that.
We're going to make it real easy, Richard. They can call our office toll-free at 1-877-707-1718.
All they have to do is call you?
That's all they've got to do, and we'll take care of it. We'll partner them with their local fire department. We can get them alarms. We are starting to run low on alarms, but we will have our next replenishment here in late February or early March. But definitely, we can take care of people. We've got many partner fire departments we're working with now. I just counted the list up last night, over 20 partner fire departments in West Michigan, and the list is growing. We've got the American Red Cross. We've got ways to be able to connect people with the resources to keep their families safe.
So if you're sitting in a house right now that has no smoke alarms in it, get a pen and write this number down and call Michael, 877-707-1718, and he'll help you figure out how to get that. In some cases, the fire department comes and helps install them.
Absolutely, and that's what we're really focusing on, because we want to make sure the alarms are installed correctly and the right amount of alarms are installed depending on the size of the home.
All right. E.S.C.A.P.E.inc.org is also the website if you want more information about what E.S.C.A.P.E does. Maybe try and get Jake the birthday dog over, something like that, to demonstrate to children how to escape fire and fire safety.